You have found the Redhead Family Therapy Guy and a Mic podcast, looking at mental health through a pop culture lens.
All right, you've done it. You're back for another one. I'm John Morgan, and this is the this is the Redhead Family Therapy Guy.
And a Mic.
And you're giving away a perfectly good hour to listen to us talk about whatever
Ramble on.
we're gonna talk about today. Now, Michael, is this like our second official interview? Whatnot is this? This is like our second.
Yeah,
Brad.
I mean, not interviewing ourselves.
Oh, right. I forgot those count.
Yeah, we count, I guess.
Interviews. Yeah, so this is like number 4-ish, I guess.
Something like that.
Well, we've got Brad with us. Brad, thanks so much for doing this, being a part of like a test subject for us as we're putting people through the ringer here. So welcome.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for having me.
Give us just introduce yourself to our many thousands and millions of listeners.
Yeah, where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, for sure. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Okay, so I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. And let's see, some things about me. Born and raised in Las Vegas. Vegas is home for me.
I'm very sorry about that. It's all right.
I'm not. Vegas is the best. John just doesn't know.
Survive and have a thriving life for sure.
Don't listen to him. Continue on.
John, have you ever been to Vegas?
Unfortunately, yes, I've passed through there, and I got all that I needed. I got all I needed out of my day or two that I drove through the dearth of brownness that is Las Vegas. But I'm sure you do. You love it? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be offensive.
No, it's okay. I live on the 3rd floor of the Excalibur.
Oh.
And my family, we have a couple rooms there that we live out of.
So Brad and I lived not far from each other before I was transferred a year and a half ago. What I don't know, 1/8 of a mile, 1/16 of a mile.
Wow, you guys are
walking distance.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Vegas is home for me too. I love it. I miss it.
Yeah, born and raised. So I did all my schooling here, high school. I did all my college too, so undergraduate and in graduate school at UNLV.
You're a rebel also.
I'm a rebel.
I can respect that. I'm a rebel at heart. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it fits. I do. It makes me happy when they win anything.
Happens sometimes, not often.
Sometimes.
It makes it all the better when they do win.
Are you a sports person, Bradley?
Yeah, I like sports. I'm not like a fanatic, but I dabble.
Mm-hmm.
So you wrestled in high school?
Yeah. I played football and I wrestled in high school.
Oh, football and wrestling.
Yeah.
Where did you go to high school at?
I went to Bonanza High School.
Bonanza, that's right.
Wait, hold on. Wait, did I just hear that right? Say that one more time for those in the cheap seats. Did I hear what I thought I heard? Say that again.
Yeah, it's the weirdest high school name and the weirdest colors. I'll tell you about it.
Wait, I got to hear this. This is hilarious. Bonanza?
Yes.
Come on. That's not the name of your high school.
Like how the show.
You guys have to work extra hard. Like, how can anybody take you seriously? That's crazy. What's your mascot at Bonanza High School?
It's a Bengal, like a Bengal tiger.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's got to be.
That goes along with Bonanza. I would expect it to be like a clown or like a tooting horn or something.
Or like maybe a cowboy or something. I don't know.
Right. Oh, right. Like
I would think cowboy. That's where I would have gone.
Maybe I was thinking rodeo clown or something.
I grew up watching Bonanza, so Bonanza doesn't seem foreign to me. I also grew up in Vegas, so I'm used to. Bonanza's an older high school.
What is that, like an ensemble show? What is the Bonanza show?
You've never seen Bonanza?
I don't think so.
Western.
Oh, was it Western? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a Western. That's why I said cowboy.
Brad, I'll apologize now. I'm a total ADD case, so I'll interrupt and interject and just tell me to shut up if you need me to or whatever. I apologize.
It's okay. You're all good. So Bonanza, Bonanza.
Mm-hmm.
Bengals the mascot, and our colors were brown and yellow.
Obviously.
Exciting.
Terrible.
That is a strange.
Did you do football all 4 years?
I ended up doing sports only 3 years.
Okay.
And so I did it freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sophomore year, we discovered a tumor in my right tibia, like your shin bone.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to get some surgeries done. We flew up to Seattle for that. There's a specialist up there.
What type of surgery did they do for that?
Like in the bone, or?
Yeah, they did a full-on bone graft. So they took out about 3 inches of my tibia, and then they packed it and just kind of formed it and stuffed it with donor bone.
Wow.
And so right after the surgery, it was 100% bone. Like there wasn't marrow or anything. There wasn't really marrow anyway because it was completely a tumor.
Mm-hmm.
And so
how big was it? How big was the tumor?
Tumor was big. It was the whole inside of the tibia.
That's crazy.
I don't know how big a tibia is. How big's the tibia?
It's your shin bone. I don't know.
The whole shin bone is considered.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's the shin bone.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That sounds like a scary large tumor. That's like
how long's the recovery for that?
Recovery. I was first in a wheelchair for like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And what age was that again? Sorry, what age was that?
I was that was back in 2002.
Yeah, you said sophomore, so probably 15.
10th grade.
I was 15.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's a tough go, man, for the 15th year. Jeez.
I know. I was pumped. I was ready to get after it. We discovered it during Hell Week of that school year. So like I went to school in person for a couple of weeks, and then the surgery happened, and then I didn't return back to school until like the last 2 weeks.
Man.
Yeah.
Like laying
so
up in
pretty
a
much
bed.
missed that whole year. So I didn't get to play sports.
And then you're able to come back from that and play in junior year?
Yeah, I participated junior and senior year, which was cool, and I had a great time.
Do you have pain at all from it now, or is it not noticeable?
No pain. Eventually, your bone marrow takes over the bone graft, and it turns into marrow.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, I get checkups every once in a while because it's part of this bone disease that I do have.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have you had anything show up anywhere else? Any other bones that?
No.
But is that typical with whatever diagnosis or disease that is, that you can tumors can show up in other places?
Yeah, it is. And they say so. The disease is called fibrous dysplasia, and you just grow tumors in usually long bones. Forearms. Shins, femur, stuff like that. It's not usually like skull or, some of the shorter bones, but.
How do they find it?
Great question. So during Hell Week, going into sophomore year, I had some knee pain in my left knee, and it was bothering me enough to where I was like, all right, Mom, let's talk to my mom. Hey, let's go get this checked out. Like, this really hurts. I don't remember it getting hit. I don't remember tweaking it. It just started hurting. And it wasn't like way out of the realm because I used to get like shin splints if I was running too much. So I was like, something's funky. Let's go get it checked out. So I went to, just a sports medicine doctor here in town, and he took an x-ray of the left knee and shin and was like, I'm not seeing anything, but I'm feeling that we should maybe take a picture or an x-ray of your right knee so we can compare them. He takes a picture of the right one, and he comes back in the room, and he's like, I think I found something. And
was it like bigger or huge or what?
Yeah, so the inside of bones look like fibrous on x-rays. Mm-hmm. And this one was not. And you could tell through the opaque, x-ray that it was
opaque.
Yeah, it was inching, or it was really like eggshell thin close to the outside of the bone. Whereas on regular bones, there's a small part where you're like, okay, that's solid bone. So Then just got a bunch of miraculous referrals to some really, really good medical doctors and professionals. And a couple weeks later, I found myself in Seattle getting operated on by, one of the best in the country. His name is actually Ernest U. Conrad.
That's
cool. Nice little shout out.
Shout out to Ernest U, the man. People call him Chappie.
Was that scary?
Yeah, what was that like? Was that a defining a defining event in your high school years?
I would say so.
Yeah.
And still currently it has been, as I look back on it.
How'd you get through it? Like, what were some of the things that really enabled you to get through that period of time?
So, you know how they say, like, your brains aren't developed until you're like mid-20s?
Mm-hmm.
I really think that's true. When I was 15, I didn't even for 1 second think like, oh, I'm going to die, or I could die, or this could be cancerous. Like, I was just like, okay, when can I get back to playing sports and going back to school? Like, it was like, I'm untouchable. This is just a quick thing. Get it out. Let's keep it moving. My parents, though, now that I'm a parent,
yeah,
I'm looking back and I'm like, that was probably really scary for them.
Yeah.
Probably.
But this isn't a type of cancer, right? It's just a bone disease.
So any tumor has the potential to become malignant because it sits there, and then the cells can turn bad. And so, yes, my tumors do have my tumor did have the potential of turning cancerous. I did get some radiation treatment because I think there was some. It wasn't a ton, thank goodness.
So are you worried about it?
Side note. So I went to Bonanza, right?
Which is the high school, if you'll remember.
The high school, not the show. And we can boast some celebrities coming out of that high school, actually.
Oh, tell us who's
So I went to school. Famous. Yeah, I went to school and spent a lot of time with a good friend. His name's Dan Reynolds, and he's the lead singer of Imagine Dragons.
Well, that's cool.
Are you a singer, Brad?
Say what?
Are you a singer?
No.
Can you sing for us?
Nope.
He's like, no, that's my friend.
You'd go from 20 viewers to 0.
No, we won't lose them over your singing ability for sure. So what did you and Reynolds, what did you guys connect over? Was he a sports guy, or were you guys just friends because of like church association, or what was it?
Church association. We just had some classes together.
Cool.
And I don't know, it was just kind of like we both came into the friendship and had good conversations. We talked about life together, and it was just like, I got a buddy.
That's cool.
And we did it. We still do it.
Was he a friend during the year that you were battling with the tumor stuff?
Yes. So the reason I brought him up was because he wrote a song about me in his newest album.
Cool.
That is cool.
What's the song called?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brad and Chappie.
No.
Oh, okay.
Bonanza Brad.
I think it's called Easy Come, Easy Go.
That's
cool. If I've heard that. I have a daughter that's like over the moon about Imagine Dragons. I actually met his dad. I was right when I got hired with my current job. I was asked to speak at a church meeting, like a priesthood meeting, and he came up afterwards, his dad, and talked to me about my whatever I'd shared, and we talked for a good 20 minutes. He's like, yeah, I'm traveling. And I think it was, a decade ago, maybe they were just starting to emerge. I don't think they were super sensation like they are now. And he's like, yeah, my son is in a band, and he's like, I'm traveling around with them. And so I was here, and I thought I'd come to this meeting. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, what band? He's like, Imagine Dragons. I was like, cool. I'm like, are they big? Like, I hadn't heard of them, I don't think, at that point. His dad was really cool. He's a really nice guy. So,
yeah.
What's the song about?
It's about how Easy Come, Easy Go is about how we've been able to stay connected at like arm's length just because his life he travels the world. It's quite different than
Gosh, I
mine.
can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah, I don't know. Me either. But anyway, he talks about my cancer, my bone tumor thing in high school, and his observations of it from his standpoint, and just how we're gonna, stay connected.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I was on
really
it,
cool.
deeply on it.
And you said you are still friends, right?
Yeah, we're still friends. So
that's cool. Did he tell you, like, when he was putting it together, and did he tell you about writing it, or did he just like, hey man, the song that's on my new album, that's you, bro? Like, how did that go down?
Yeah, he invited me over to his house, and I listened to a lot of the tracks that he thinks are going to be on the new album, and he just says, "What do you think?" I give him my opinions, and he said, "I wrote this one about you." Played it. I was like, "Oh man, that was awesome."
That's so cool. Really cool.
So cool.
And then it made it onto the album, because not all of them do.
Sure.
But that means that him and the bandmates and the production and his manager, they all agreed that it was good enough to be on the record.
That's awesome.
That's gotta be such a cool experience, man. Is he cool about you? Like, I mean, if you guys still keep tabs, I'm thinking about like I have one high school buddy that I still keep in touch with. I'm actually going to see him probably in a couple of weeks. And is that weird? Like, oh yeah, one of my, my best friends from high school. Cause it sounds like you guys were tight if you were hanging out that much. I mean, is that weird? What's that like? I mean, talk about easy come, easy go, or seeing somebody's life change before your eyes, or see what the Hollywood, famous scene does to a person. What's especially as a therapist, what has that been like watching?
Oh man, what a ride. I've been with him since the beginning. I was best man at his wedding.
Cool.
I was there when he met his wife and all the dating, and when he started having kids, and when it took off, he came home from his mission that he served in Nebraska and went to BYU. Was like, I'm going to start a band immediately. And so I was observant and connected to him from that point to what it is today. And it's just been crazy. He lives in a different world in a lot of aspects. So I don't know how much I can relate to a lot of his experience, and that industry is pretty tough on people, or it can be.
Sure. Even freaking imagine, dude.
Yeah. I got to go on tour with him for his North America tour in 2014.
How long of a stint was that?
I was with them. The North America tour was like 6 weeks, and we hit everywhere. We hit even Nashville. I remember we played it was their first arena tour.
What year was that?
That was in 2014. They played.
Yeah, that was it. That must have been it. Was his dad along with for the ride? Because that must have been when it was. Yeah, that was definitely it. That's so cool.
So then I thought you said you don't sing.
Oh no, I don't sing. So
then what were you touring with them for?
Yeah, what were you doing? Were you like the lights guy or the mic check guy or?
No, I have none of those skills. But growing up doing sports, I know just a little bit about exercise and fitness and stretching. And so he was like, hey, come keep me in the band physically fit. And that's cool. I was kind of like a utility guy, to be honest. I did that. I did exercises and workouts with them and stretching with them every day. And then I would also coordinate a lot of the security and safety procedures and protocols for the arena. So the arena security would come into a meeting with me a couple hours before every show, and I would say, hey, this is what you can expect. We're going to need maybe some extra people over here for help. He comes off stage during this song. This is going to happen at this point. And I had my cool, walkie-talkies and
like a badge. Like a
oh yeah.
Imagine
so pretty much badge. I ran the show. I ran cool. Everything.
So then what's the craziest story you have from that part of
Is it a grueling schedule? It sounds like just an absolutely grueling schedule for 6 weeks.
It beats you up.
I remember listening to a podcast with I can't remember his name, the head singer of Counting Crows, and he talked about like it took him years to kind of figure out what kind of schedule he could manage that wouldn't just like put him on his heels for just months or whatever.
Yep. It beats you up. And that lifestyle, like, I guess maybe therapeutically in an aspect might be to handle that long term.
Yeah.
It has some effect.
Mm.
And even so they've changed the way that they tour now because they've made it big enough.
But they can kind of dictate what they're going to do and what they're not going to do.
Yeah, so they'll take their family and they'll go and they'll have a headquarters in Europe, and the family will stay there at the hotel, and they'll just fly out to every show and fly back that night.
That's cool. Just being like on a bus all over the country or whatever.
Not a ton of bus work anymore, even though the buses were really cool. Like you have this little bunk. We watched TV shows at the end of the night after the show. Like it was a lot of fun. It can be rigorous. It's tough, especially if you're away from your family. So it was a lot of fun.
So going back to my question before John took over, No, I want him to answer the question I asked before you jumped in. So the craziest story you have from being in charge of security, I have to imagine there's got to be stories of just things happening. What's the craziest one you can remember, or just a fun one you can remember?
So during this one song, he would get into the crowd. And there was a couple times where they were like sucking him in. Like,
oh, I bet
they're grabbing him, bringing him in. So we had to reach over, grab him by, the belt and a couple of us, and really yank him out of the fans, out of the hands of the fans.
Yeah. Would he just get lost in the crowd? Like, would they just pull him and he'd just be gone?
Dude, there was, yeah. I mean, there was like 20,000 people at each show. It's a full arena.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know. Whenever you get into the crowd, people trying to grab on them, trying to kiss them, whatever they can do.
Sorry.
So tell me,
imagine thousands of people wanting to kiss me.
Like, what made you decide I'm going to go do that? Like, how did that whole thing pan out to where you're friends and then all of a sudden you're going on tour all over the United States? I mean, that seems like a huge commitment. You kind of have to drop everything, I'd imagine. And that just becomes your whole gig, your whole thing, your whole life, at least throughout that time period. So what kind of walk us through, how did that happen? What led to that?
Okay, so he was here in town. They were getting ready. This was their first arena tour. It's called the Night Visions Tour. And it started in Boise, Idaho. And then we went into Canada a couple times. And we just hit like all the major cities. But as it was getting planned, he was just like, I'd love to have you. Like, this is the position that I think you could fill on our crew. And he's like, I know some fitness. We're gonna be traveling, so everything's got to fit inside of a couple boxes and can be stored. And I was kind of okay and comfortable with doing impromptu exercise and workouts. I had a background in doing lots of CrossFit. And
were you married at the time, Brad?
I was. So I was married in 2011.
Crazy.
And my wife was working full time at that time.
So then did you have to leave CG or was she able to come with you, or how did that work?
Yes, she came out for a week. She came out for a week and stayed on the bus with me and hotels when we had breaks. And so she got to come and see what the lifestyle was all about and what it was like to be backstage and hang out with other wives of, the band. And just
how many other bands have wives at that age traveling around? What a different background. Imagine dragging them. Because how many of the other guys were family man like Dan?
Dan, the lead singer, and then Wayne Sermon, the guitarist. Mm-hmm. They both had wives at that time. And Wayne's wife was pregnant on the bus with their first.
Oh, wow.
Dan had his oldest was already born. She was a few years old, actually. So, yeah, we had kids running around backstage, too.
got to be like
so
such a different scenario than other bands, I imagine. But that's so cool.
Yeah, so he just asked me like, "Hey, this would be cool. I'd really like you. We've always been really close. He'd be like, this would be a cool experience for us to just kind of share together, and you can be of service to us as well." So
there was a purpose, a role to fill, but there was also probably an emotional support there. You being a friend and him knowing you so well. There's kind of it sounds like a few things that you fulfilled.
Yes, I think so.
Have you just out of curiosity, like over the years, have you felt like you've helped to keep him grounded, or is your friendship? Do you feel like maybe played that role? Because I know like one of my really good friend from high school that I mean we were totally like bosom buddies from the time we were in ninth grade till I graduated, and over the years, Roger has like totally called me and been like, dude, I need help with this kind of stuff or this kind of stuff. He had some hard things that went on through the years. And then I moved back and we were close. I was in the same physical area. I've been away a lot, but for like 3 years we were and we got to hang out more during those years again and stuff. So do you feel like in that way your friendship has functioned in that way, or?
I think so. I think as much as it probably could have. I think we've stayed connected and current on everything that's been relevant in our lives. Whenever he has a kid, whenever I've had a kid, we were some of the first people that we'd tell through a text.
That's cool, man.
That's cool.
When marriage is tough and you're tired or maybe you're having some depression, like we'd always text back and forth and call whenever he's in town. We'll go to lunch and just catch up on everything. So yeah, we still bounce each other's ideas off one another and just keep tabs on one another, I think. So
cool.
Has there been changes? I think so. I think that would be safe to expect from a situation like this. But overall, I think and whenever we see each other, it's like, it's right back. It's just cool. Like, yeah. So.
And I think that's probably cool. Characteristic of any friendship from high school. It seems like it changes over the years. And then you're lucky if you have one or two that you're still able to have that relationship with, where you get together and it's just like you're back to best of buds.
Yeah, anytime I hang out with my buddy Roger, we pick right back up. Like we are so kind of like kindred spirits in that way or whatever. So we don't want to, unless Michael has another specific question to ask about.
I just was wondering, how long did you end up working for or with Imagine Dragons then?
I did their North American tour, and then afterwards, when that tour was over, I helped continue to train the guys here in Las Vegas. They all bought homes and everything here. And so they lived here. They were recording more tracks for new albums and new records and stuff. And so I would continue to train them. And I did that probably. Tour was in March of 2014, March and April, or February and March, one of those two. And then
you done undergrad at this point?
I had done that undergrad, yes.
And were you pursuing graduate? Like, did you know you wanted to do the therapy route, or?
Oh, that's another.
Yeah, I want to hear that story.
Yeah, that's the next one for us therapists. Like, how did you do this?
Because we have some similarities there, Brad and I, and it's interesting to find someone else.
He was going to be a lawyer as well?
I don't know. Let's hear.
Which I didn't even know. Michael and I have been friends for a while, and then like when the interview won, he's like, "Yeah, I was going to be an attorney." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. That was another journey of mine. So yeah, I did undergrad. I got done 2011.
And what was that in?
Psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I had, enrolled in a class to study for the LSAT because my intention was to go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took, one of the prep programs here in town, which was excellent. I had a really, really cool experience. I felt like I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And it took my score. It actually raised it 30 points.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah,
or your first score was really poor.
Yeah, you're like on some kind of bender the night before you did the other.
I'm being really vulnerable right now. Yeah, I came in, I did a pre-test, and it came out as a 130. I know that sounds really bad, and
I raised it up into the 160s.
Yeah, so
that's great.
My teacher in this program, when I took the LSAT, I took it twice. I got up to 160.
You were just sleepy the first time. That's all.
Which isn't a terrible score. Not terrible. I think it's like 83rd percentile or something like that. For 160s, is that what you said? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, not terrible. Anyway, so I applied to law schools, and I wanted to stay closer to home, and I had family in San Diego, so I was like, all right, I'm going to apply down there. Apply to UNLV, and I think I maybe applied to one other. It was so long ago. But anyway, what I was wanting to do is I wanted to get a dual degree, which is the JD and the MSW.
Cool.
So that can be,
yeah.
And you can be like what are those called? The mediators or an attorney that does. Yeah.
Conflict resolution, stuff like that. So during that time, this is the summer of 2013, I wasn't quite sure. I was thinking like, I wanted to help people somehow. And I think law is probably the coolest way. It's definitely kind of prestigious. My parents would be proud of me.
Mm-hmm.
And all that. But I went and I did a summer internship here at Clark County Public Defender's Office. A good friend of ours is one of the team chiefs. And so he was like, I'll let you, just observe and follow my team around. And I did that for a whole summer in 2013. I had no law experience, but it was kind of cool because even some of the attorneys, like they'd be, defending their client in front of the judge, full courtroom. And they'd say, they'd pause and they'd look back at me, and I'm sitting like next to them. I was like, I can't even believe I'm sitting next to these guys. I'm sitting next to them and they're asking me like, did I miss anything? I'm like, why are you asking me? I have no idea.
Like, dude, I'm an undergrad.
Yeah. I know nothing. Why are you asking me?
That's hilarious.
But it was cool.
That's really cool.
It was so cool. It was an amazing experience. And the team chief's name was Darren Cox. He's stake president here in Houston, and just a really good dude. And I had a great time. Learned a ton. Just had a lot of fun. But then I kind of figured like, I don't know if this is the way I want to help people. I thought it was. And then I applied to the law schools and I got in. And the law school down in San Diego actually gave me, pretty solid scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also got into the MSW program at a couple places as well, including UNLV, which I was already at home.
Yeah.
My wife had a good job and we like being here. And so, we really thought about it, pondered on it, prayed together, all that good stuff. And decided to go with just the MSW. The other thing that contributed to that is I would interview a lot of attorneys. I worked for an attorney for a long time, which is Dan Reynolds' dad, the guy that you talked to, Ron. Mm-hmm. I was a runner and did filing and everything. Every time I interviewed an attorney, everybody was like, don't do it. Like, why do you want to be a lawyer? Just don't do it. That was their first.
Idea. That's hilarious. I had one of I knew an attorney really well, and he told me that like you're a glorified document writer. He's like all you are is a glorified document writer. He's like that's all I do is make documents.
That's crazy.
I told my parents, I was like, so I'm not going to law school. I'm going to social work school.
So when you were thinking about that, were you already thinking that you wanted to do clinical? Like, because I know social work has a big breadth, like, and some plan to go do clinical work. Is that what you were thinking when you were thinking LCSW?
Yes. And here's part two of what really pushed me over the edge was we had a really stressful time in our family, and not so much within like my immediate family, like me and my wife, but my whole family, really stressful. I really was in need of some guidance, and I was wearing myself thin. And one night I had a panic attack, and I was like, what the crap is this? What even is this? And
yeah.
I was like, my body's acting funny. So anyway, long story short, I went to a counselor for a couple of times, and it was so helpful and was so beneficial to me that I was coming right off of that internship into like, what am I really going to do? I had that experience, and it was very quickly like I was like, okay, that's how I want to help people.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
And so started graduate program.
So you went to UNLV School of Social Work?
I did.
Shout out.
Don't shout too loud. Come on.
Yeah. It's the best school of social work around.
It's actually
the best social work school, but
I'm not going to brag. It's a top 100, and it's better than BYU's.
Nice.
I
have no problem.
Per U.S. News.
Yeah, that's the only one that matters. Whatever one ranks us the highest, it's the only one that matters.
I haven't even looked at where my alma mater. I went to Drexel University. I got a master's in family therapy. I have no idea where it ranks, but yeah.
So you lived in Pennsylvania for a while.
I grew up in Philly. Yeah, it's funny actually. I was born in San Diego. My dad was in the Navy. And then I served, I'm a convert to the church I joined when I was 20, and I went on a mission to San Diego, California. So I was having a pipe down. And the vice president of SDS, or San Diego State University, or California, Cal SD, I don't know how they enumerate or whatever the acronym is. But the vice president was stake president, and I got to know him really well, actually really close. And he took me golfing at Torrey Pines. On a mission. I played golf in college when I joined the church in North Carolina, and so I got to play on Torrey Pines actually a couple of times, and so
that's cool.
It was yeah, that's kind of a mecca. So it was very cool to get to go play.
That is dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah.
That's
cool. So then you landed in social work.
Yeah.
And here you are.
And what kind of
the
what
best
kind of
therapist around?
For sure. What population were you working with when you first started, or before coming to the agency that we all work at? What population were you working at?
So, my student practicum internship, it was at just a local agency here, and we did a lot of Medicaid and Medicare population, specifically children. And this agency in particular really specialized in RAD, or reactive attachment.
God bless folks that work with that population. I mean, geez Louise.
Yeah. So we're talking, foster kids and
really bad situations.
A lot of low income and difficult situations.
I had a mom that
had a great experience.
I had a private practice for a while when I was in Knoxville, and I had a mom that had 2 adopted kids that were rad, and it was insanity.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It was just controlled chaos. It's just trying to stay somewhat grounded and hyper development of boundaries so that things weren't too out of control. It was just really, really, really tough situation.
Yeah.
And you've done some stuff with like sexualized or sexual assessments, perpetrator type stuff, or am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, so post-graduation, my clinical internships for state licensure, one was at our agency, and that was like part-time. And then my other part-time was with another agency here in town called Neubauer Mental Health. And I received from him a lot of training on how to conduct psychosexual assessments, or sexual behavior risk assessments.
Did you do those like continuing ads or extra study or training in that, or just from that supervisor?
All the above, including getting some certifications and
cool.
Implementing some of the instruments that are out there.
And you still do some of that with our agency now, right?
Yeah. So I do those assessments for anybody that needs them in the state of Arizona and Nevada, which is where I'm licensed. in those two states, and I do that for our agency currently.
I've got like a billion questions in my head that I want to ask, but it's very like down the rabbit hole of our. I don't know if people would find it really interesting, so I'll forbear. We'll have to talk off air another time about some lines or questions and thoughts, because I've worked a ton with addiction. I worked intensive outpatient, and then I was the manager of residential drug addiction for youth before I came to work for the agency I work with, and so yeah, I just have a lot of, and I've worked a ton with sex addiction. I don't have a CSAT, and I've thought about getting CSAT a lot because I like working with that population, and so I just have some questions in my head of the dividing lines of some of that stuff. And I had a perpetrator or two, one really, and I probably wasn't prepared to deal with him when I was working with him, but he was pretty on the line of sociopathic, so I don't know if there was really much that could be done there anyway. But yeah, it'd be interesting to chat some other. I won't go down the rabbit hole of asking all kinds.
Call me anytime, John.
Yeah.
So tell us, Brad, you decided to go into social work, and now you're this uber famous therapist.
Oh gosh, of course.
Tell us about your family.
You got a song written after you from Magic Dragons.
I don't have a song written after me.
Is there a picture of you on the CD, like on the next to the name of the song?
No, but they do shout me out in the if you buy a physical copy of the CD.
Who does that anymore? You did.
Oh, really? So then on the info, like the paper that comes in the CD,
yeah,
there's like what does it say? Like Brad's awesome, Brad's number one, or how did they shout you out?
Well, I'm in two of them. So their second album, I'm in that. It just says big thanks because I was training the guys and just trying to keep them healthy.
Yeah. That's cool.
And something similar in this one. Nobody really buys physical copies anymore.
I know, it's so tragic. I remember going to Rainbow Records around the corner from my house and flipping through.
Yeah.
Or records. I don't even know where they sell. Do they sell them at Walmart still? I don't know. Best Buy, maybe.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, that's right.
So then tell us about your family. You're married. You have kiddos?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm married, been married since 2011. So we're coming up. We'll hit 11 years next month.
Cool.
Awesome.
And we have 3 kids. I got a 6-year-old son, and then a 3-year-old daughter, and then a 3-month-old daughter. So brand new.
Got a little baby, a grunter, still grunting it away. I love how little babies are always grunting.
Yeah. So I'm in survival mode. I have been for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And
lots of caffeine.
Does the 3-month-old sleep well, or is she like every 2 hours? Is it a he or she? Sorry, no. Did you say daughter?
She'll string together like 5 to 6 hour blocks. Nice. So not terrible.
Cool.
That's great.
Yeah, definitely could be worse.
And my
wife's a NICU nurse.
Oh wow!
And so she loves babies. Like that's her element.
That's cool.
She's in heaven right now.
And I hear you got a dirt bike. You have a new hobby and your big truck. Tell us about your big truck and your dirt bike.
So talking about CDs remind me of my truck because I went and I bought this truck last year before car prices got insane.
Beat me.
And I bought this truck. It's like my dream truck. And lucky to have it. But there's like no CD player.
Really?
And I'm telling my friends, like, where do I put my CDs? And they're like,
I don't think mine has one
there. I feel like you're aware of this thing called a phone. It's amazing.
Like, why do you have CDs? I'm like, you guys don't have CDs? And they're like, not in a decade. I was like, wow, I'm way behind.
So check this out. My daughter got a 2006 Honda, and so she totally has like my old accordion of CDs like in her glove box because she's got a CD player.
Keep it going. Keep the
CDs alive.
I got the truck, and then a bunch of my buddies who I actually went to high school with. We have a pretty close group of friends that are still here in town, and they all dirt bike, and they're like, "You got to get on this." And so I bought a cheap fixer-upper because didn't want to dump too much money into something like this.
Sure.
Hated it the first time. Hated it.
That's a great way to start a hobby business. Why did I just buy this bike?
I hated it. I was like, I'll never do this again. They talked me into doing it again. This time we went on something actually kind of easy. And then I was like, okay, this could be cool. You know, and now a year later, I'm like, okay, this is really, dirt biking is really cool.
That's fun, man.
Yeah, that's my hobby right now.
I've got a good friend in Utah that's all about biking. He's always constantly posting stuff on his Instagram, and his kids, his kids are really young and they're out riding all the time and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to get into the movie pick, but before we go there, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask, John?
I think so. I don't remember, but my brain has cashed down on me. But, here's one. So before we hear what movie you wanted to talk about, do you know Dan well enough to know what one of his favorite movies from growing up was, or favorite movies are?
Oh yeah, yeah. So his movie range is eclectic. When we were younger, that's all we did was we just watched movies. Every Friday, Saturday night, we would just go to Blockbuster, which was right around the corner from his house.
We've talked Blockbuster on the podcast before.
Oh yeah,
Michael and I have.
we were VIPs at Blockbuster.
That's hilarious. What movie did you guys quote the most then?
Some of the classics. His family is like, you know, really high intelligence, and they like things like Monty Python stuff. I remember watching that. I remember his older brother came home from his mission and was like, "You got to look into this show. It's big in Great Britain," which is where he was. He's like, "It's called The Office."
Oh, the UK
we were probably
Office.
some of the first. We were probably some of the first Americans to see The Office.
Oh, that's cool. Watched in the UK.
Oh, what else? I'd have to think back. We liked all the classics. We'd quote Tommy Boy. We'd quote
That man in a little coat.
Yeah. What's all this Philly stuff?
Maybe fluff your pillow.
Yeah, I did have another one.
A good one.
I had another one before. I don't know. So wait, sorry. So is that your answer to one of Dan's favorite movies?
I'll tell you a show that we watched like religiously, and it stole so many nights of sleep from us. We watched the show 24 with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes.
And we'd binge a season in a couple nights. We would pull all-nighters. It was crazy.
That's hilarious because that one. So 24, my wife and I, totally poor in college, and this is before you could stream anything or whatever. So it must have been the same years. We would like scrape coins together and go rent, because there'd be 4 episodes on a video, and so we didn't find it like when it was on TV or whatever, and so we would binge the shows. And I remember it would be like 2:00 in the morning, and we'd be like, "Should we watch another one?" And I'm like, "I got class at like 8." And we're like, "Okay, let's watch another one." We just couldn't shut it off. It was so compelling. I'm trying to think what season. We didn't get all the way through all the seasons. I think we got to like season 6 or 7 or something like that. But
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's good. It's nail bitey. It's nail bitey. And Kiefer is like no joke, dude. He's like the Jason Bourne of the FBI or whatever unit they were.
24 hours
unit or whatever. Yeah, it's a really cool. It's a really cool concept. So, all right, I have one more before we switch to Interstellar, though. I had heard, or I think Michael has said, that you're a big conspiracy guy.
He is a big prepper. No, prepper. I don't know is the right word. You like to be prepared.
I keep my ear to the ground. If you know what I'm saying.
So, do you have a conspiracy that is most favored or most has sucked you in?
This is a black hole question.
I know. We don't have to go down the black hole. I'm just curious of what one has been most fascinating.
I am too. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
This could easily turn into a 10-hour podcast.
No, we don't have to go down the rabbit hole. We might a little bit, but I'm just curious which one has been most compelling or...
Okay. So I have a really good friend, and she owns a really prominent business and very intelligent lady. We had a conversation. We went out with, she's married. We went out to get some dinner, couples date. And we talked about chemtrails for like 2 or 3 hours. And at the end, she like basically convinced me, where I was like, the government's controlling us with chemicals that they release in the air.
Oh, is that what a chemtrail is? I have no idea what you're even talking about.
If you ever look,
that's a deep hole, bro.
Yeah,
I do look in the sky.
You'll see them.
You'll see them all the time. Yeah, there's just trails, like it looks like a plane's fallen through, and then there's a trail of smoke. And there's verifiable evidence for sure that they've manipulated weather patterns with chemtrails. Like that's not even considered conspiratorial really anymore in the science world. So, but.
Yeah, and then,
all I do is play with toys. It takes too much of my time. I don't have time for.
All right, so Brad, can I tell you one of the ones that got me down the rabbit hole? Okay. So I wasn't a conspiracy person very much at all, and then I started getting into politics, like in the 2000s, like when Mitt Romney was going to run or whatever. I had somebody tell me, like, this guy's a liberal governor or whatever, and so I really started getting into politics because like, oh, I'm getting older, I should get involved, I should pay attention or whatever. And so then I went down like conspiracy rabbit holes is those years in school and all that, and I got real kind of into government stuff. But one of the ones that got me was the Titanic conspiracy. Are you familiar with that one? I won't go down I won't describe it if you hadn't heard of it.
Give me a synopsis real quick on that.
The short is that it was an intentional disaster to get rid of some of the American robber barons. There were a lot of prominent Americans, prominent robber barons, and some key. There was, I think, at least one, if not more, one of the Supreme Court justices and some other highly important individuals in the early 19th century that would have opposed the amendment that turned states into corporations and brought on the tax code. So this whole group of people that were standing in the way of the creation of the Fed were all allegedly some key Americans that would have never allowed the corporation of the states of the United States of America and the tax code that we now, the income-based tax code, to come into, because that came in the dark of night in December in 19 whatever it was, I can't remember, is it 1919 or 1929 or something like that, in that era. And so all of this group of people that would have opposed it allegedly, were sent to their grave on the watery Titanic. That was all.
Except for Rose.
Except for what?
Rose, she survived.
She did, yes, and then dropped her magic diamond into the ocean.
Yeah.
So everybody knows there was enough room for Jack on there.
No, that's part of the conspiracy, though, isn't it? How she didn't let Jack survive.
So anyway, cool.
Okay, I dig it.
We'll have to talk more conspiracies. My thing about conspiracies for me is like I don't necessarily. Like, I absolutely believe that there are nefarious handshakers and power Illuminati types in the world. But I just find them fascinating. And I'm fine, like, if they're true. But I'm also, I think, sane enough to know that they could not be true. But I think that, there's probably half-truths and misinformation. And so I just find it, I love them. I think they're fascinating. But I'm not, like, all in on any of them. I'm in the same There's boat. A couple that I'm a little strong-minded about, but I'm not all in on everything.
Yeah, I'm in the same
I watch like the Area 51 conspiracy theories. I like the sci-fi ones.
Yes.
They're interesting.
Yeah, Joe Rogan gets like a little crazy when he has like people that have information about aliens on his show. He like goes crazy.
I think that's the only time I've seen one of his shows is when he had is it Bob Lazar? Is that his name? The Area 51 guy?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is so interesting.
It's really fascinating.
And then George Knapp. You remember George Knapp? He's the newscaster from Vegas who did a whole show on Bob Lazar or something. I don't know if you remember that or not, Brad.
He was a compelling figure on that podcast for sure. But.
So what movie did you choose, Brad?
Yeah, this is a great segue.
John kind of dropped the name earlier, but tell us.
So Michael texts me and he's like, hey, let's do it this Sunday. I said, okay. He's like, think of a movie. I was actually going to the bathroom at that time that we were texting each other.
Good information.
And I was
part of the story.
Too much information. But anyway, I was watching just videos on outer space on YouTube because that's what I like to do in my free time. And the Interstellar soundtrack came on because everybody uses that for anything that has to do with outer space.
Cool.
The soundtrack. And so in that moment, I was like, Interstellar.
Cool.
It was a sign.
And there's conspiracy theory in Interstellar too. That's the one thing that jumped out to me when I was watching it. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
John and Brad are gonna have a heyday.
I was like,
moon
well,
landing.
Of course they tell the truth in this movie. So that's cool. So what do you love about Interstellar? Because I remember when Michael told me Interstellar, I was like, wow. I remember watching that movie and being like, I don't think I got it. But I'm actually glad that that you brought it up, because watching it again, I really enjoyed it a lot and I got a lot more out of it. I read one or two synopses because I was trying to be like, look, what's his bucket? That's the director guy.
Christopher Nolan. Is that who it was?
Tenet and that movie that's backwards. He's all about time movies, and so he's always trying to say something about time. It would be really interesting to talk to him and be like, what is your thing about time and movies? So what is it that you love about Interstellar, or what did you that you want to talk about?
Overall, I like a lot of Christopher Nolan's work. He did the Batman.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Batman Begins is a great show.
Yeah. He's done some cool ones.
Yeah, he did the Dark Knight trilogy. Is that the
the
one?
Yeah. Lots of time themes in his stuff too.
I definitely want to watch Memento. I want to see if somebody's spliced together forward. Surely somebody has done that.
Somebody's had to have done that.
I want to watch it that way, but
yeah. Oh, so good. So good. If I was really smart, like if I was a smart person, intelligent person, I would have went into like astrophysics. Like that is...
Yeah, that's really interesting.
All things having to do with space, like I would never go out there, but studying it...
Well, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, so if I was really intelligent, that's probably what I would have pursued.
So what you're saying is you don't think family therapists are intelligent.
This was the backup to the backup.
This was number 3 for me.
Not that I wanted to help people, it's that I'm just actually not smart enough to be an attorney. So.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So something like with this movie, I feel like there's a few different things that jumped out to me, but one thing that I liked, and I'm not sure if how I interpret it was what it was meant to be interpreted as, but I liked how there's this overarching kind of meaning or idea of connection and love that can span throughout dimensions, right? Or throughout universes, throughout galaxies. It can bringing us together, connecting us can really, it's what leads to our survival. I feel like that's what Matt Damon's whole thing was about. Like he went utterly crazy because he didn't have anyone. He was alone. And we see that in our lives, right? We go crazy when we feel alone. It's scary. It's horrible. It's torture. And so I loved how I feel like he was talking about we need that. We need love and connection in our life, but he did it in a sci-fi way, which is really cool to me. Well, at least that's what jumped out to me.
Well, one of the takeaways of the movie is that the father-daughter relationship saves the human race.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's really, I thought it was really interesting to the juxtaposition of Cooper and Murph, the daddy-daughter relationship, to Dr. Dr. Brand? Is that it?
Dr. Brand, I think it was Brand,
his daughter Brand. And looking at the differences of those relationships and honesty and I thought there was something there, that kind of was striking me that I was kind of aware of, but yeah, it's a powerful message. But for you, what was it that stood out for Interstellar, or what is it that you love about that movie?
I like both of your comments. That was actually pretty deep. I don't even know if I went that deep. It has a pretty, wide range of human emotion. You have everything from like survival techniques and what's more powerful than survival technique, or survival moves. You have integrity. You have lies and deceit, and you have good and some bad and some altruism expressed in different ways. Like you have a pretty good look at a human's experience. I like that. That mixed with things like relativity and some of, how time dilation works.
I think that's one of the things that really bugged me the first time I saw it, that I didn't get. It was like, I just didn't understand what was going on in the library and the communication. And one of the things that even bugged me a little bit this last time is they just kept saying whoever the they is that's trying to get them to move forward. And I had to kind of let go of that idea of what the they was or is, because it just I couldn't make sense of it, or it didn't resolve or whatever. And I think one of the reasons why the movie bugged me a little bit the first time versus it, because I think it won a ton of awards and was recognized as this wonderful film. But I think the other thing that bugged me is it really bugged me that Murph was so upset. I think that emotional stress of the dad leaving and kind of never coming back, which was a major figure, I think it just really bothered me emotionally, and was one of the reasons why it was hard for me to enjoy the film, though that was the point, you know what I mean, was, that distress of the feeling abandoned, right? Because that was something that her character was really driven by, abandoned, and that all got worked out, as she realized that the communication was coming from him in the library, which was just really interesting to kind of figure. And the one robot says something like, it was never about trying to change the past because of that first message of stay or whatever. But it's no, it wasn't. It was about trying to move things forward. And so the idea of how the relationship moved the human race forward, or I don't know, there's something there that seems really important, the idea of parents leaving. I think as I started to ponder on it today, I was thinking about today a lot. And I think the thing that I started equating it to was the loss of a parent, right? Because that's a little bit what Murph's going through. I mean, you're focused a lot on Cooper as a character, but if you think about the daughter's experience, it's this idea of loss, and then communicating with her father kind of through this, what could be seen as supernatural, though it's scientific or whatever.
Well, it's loss, and then also I feel like for Murphy, it's I'm not wanted. It's like loss and rejection,
right? Because you left me here to die was one of the really painful things that she says.
So painful that she really doesn't want to believe it, and that's what keeps her moving forward. Right? Is this desire to not believe that she's not enough, right? Because that's too dark of a place for us it hurts, right? And when we go to those places, we see it in our clients all the time. It tears them apart.
Oh gosh, that's the most painful thing, right? That I don't matter, enough that you would leave, which is what's really interesting about the difference of the relationships of Cooper to Murph and Dr. What's his bucket to his daughter.
To Brand or whatever.
Yeah, it's like he sends her off with a lie and kind of like, this is unsolvable, right? Which is like Matt Damon's character kind of confirms that, like, oh yeah, like just so like blatantly like, oh yeah, there was never a plan A.
Yeah.
You know, it was always about plan B. But it's interesting because that dad sends his daughter off into the universe to kind of die alone, so to speak, where Cooper goes off in the attempt to try to save his daughter, right? So you've got really two different kind of relationships playing out that I think it's intentional that they were kind of mirrored against one another in one way or another, but which seems significant. It seems significant that you and they have the attitude of that our love and relationship is what led to the saving of the human race. Sorry, Mike.
And I think for Dr. Brand, maybe, he kept that lie alive to provide her, because he with his daughter, he educated her, taught her, and really prepared her to go and do this. And so
go out into the universe.
Yeah, that lie was maybe in his mind for her to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he thought if she knew otherwise, she wouldn't have left. And staying there was death, at least in his mind, right?
Right.
There was no solution, no answer besides leaving. Let's go back to the they. So the they, who is the they, Brad? What was your thought? I have a couple of thoughts on it. What was your thought or understanding as to the they?
So that's the golden question out of this whole movie. That Matthew McConaughey or Cooper says at the end, he's like, it never was they, it was us.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what I got out of that was we never knew what happened inside of black holes. Mm-hmm. And still, even with the scientific community today, if there's one grand thing we don't know about space and time in the universe is we have no idea what happens in black holes.
Yeah.
So he goes into it, Gargantuan, I think is the name of the black hole. He goes into it and he sees that love is quantified, is represented, and it's more than 3 dimensions. And so, yeah. And so exactly. And so it sounded to me like it was the love and that desire that allowed that in the black hole mixed with those two things allowed him to reach back through the other dimensions to get important information to his daughter.
That's kind of what I was thinking too, is my two thoughts were the they is them, right? It's their love, like you're saying, that created this, that perpetuated this. And then my second thought was potentially the they is like some future version of the human race, us, that has been able to figure out how to utilize time within a black hole to send back what was needed to be used at that time to communicate back to another dimension or whatever. It would be a different dimension, I guess, or a different part of the different part of the universe.
So what's the message there then? That, if Cooper descends through a black hole, what's the message of what you discover of going into the blackness? Because he sacrificed himself, right? Like he had no idea. And he really sacrificed himself for plan B for the daughter. I keep forgetting the name. What is it? Bradley?
Her name was Brand too.
Brand. That's it. Brand. Sorry. Yeah. So he sacrifices himself for Brand to have the chance with Edmund on this other planet, right? So he gives himself for plan B. And in descending into the black hole abyss of aloneness or death, he discovers access to his daughter and connection to his daughter in a way that gives her information to save the human race. There's a profound message there. You know what I mean?
Right.
of descending into the aloneness of sacrifice. But it's also interesting too, because am I wrong in remembering that Matt Damon's character like seemed to say that the human race didn't have that potential, right? That when they're faced with survival, because that's what he was doing, right? Like he was being horribly selfish in his moment of facing death.
Yeah, his character is really interesting to me also.
Oh, it's awful. I hated his character, which is good. I mean, you know what I mean? But I hated him. I hated him so much. He was such a Judas that he would, require the resources and the lives. Like, I mean, that he would lie to them and just destroy them. So
for him to survive, not only did he just lie to them, he lied to jeopardize the whole existence of the human race.
Right.
Like,
and so
huge lie.
Yeah. Well, and he suggests that that's like the problem of the human race. And I'm like, bro, like all of the major archetypes that are awesome and we love don't do that. It's actually just you that's a selfish Judas. But I guess that's the way he sees the world, right?
And it's interesting because he starts like he has to start from a different position, right? To do that, you have to have some sense of sacrifice. I mean, even if he is narcissistic or conceited or whatever, motivations, but there had to be something there to risk that much. Like that's a huge risk to go in the first place.
Well, what he says is, one of the things he says is the foundation of emotion is the need to be with other people, and so he really had that need, but it's interesting that he was so selfishly willing to fulfill that need that others would die so he could be back with other people, which is just great. I guess it just seems like not to make any sense to me because like, dude, you're out in the middle of nowhere in space. Like, who do you want to get back to? Like, what, like you're going to, that the human race is on the edge and you're willing to just sabotage that. Or maybe he just had expected or hoped that it had worked out somewhere else. And so
what were some of your thoughts, Brad, with Matt Damon's character?
So you'll see some Matt Damon characters in a lot of couples therapy. And you'll see, it's not necessarily always the male, but you can see at times that there's one partner or one companion that over intellectualizes all of the components of connection. And so they look at it as an outsider, as an observer, instead of a participant inside of emotion. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what he was doing even as Matthew McConaughey or Cooper was dying. He was like,
he didn't want to look away.
He's like, this is normal. Are you seeing your kids? Like, this is just scientific fact. This is just logical approach to how things work in the universe.
Yeah, it's true.
And he's never in it. He's an observer.
And why do we do that in marriage?
Because when we participate in emotion, it hurts.
Yeah,
it's just protecting himself. It's just shame, right?
Yeah, we run away from pain usually. Yeah, and so I think that was the other cool thing is you're seeing potentially big negative consequences when you are not a whole human, which was Matt Damon, versus Cooper, who is scientific, engineering, and equipped with love. It's like he's a whole person.
Intense love, yeah.
And look at the difference, right? That's a really cool thing to see where Matt Damon ends up and where Matthew McConaughey ends up.
Yeah.
And it shows that even though there's pain in that if we can work through that with a loved one, great happiness comes, right? There's growth that comes from that, but it's so scary of a thing to make that choice.
The savior of the human race, right?
Yeah.
Where Dr. Mann just, destroys himself and compromises any chance that anybody else has.
So how do you get there, Brad? Because it's scary. Like you saw when Matt Damon woke up from cryo sleep or whatever it is, he's just bawling, right? He's just bawling and shaking into Matthew McConaughey's arms. So how do you, in a marriage, how do you get through that fear and that scaring, like to actually experience what Matthew McConaughey was able to experience?
Well, I think that's a good point in that you pointed out that he cried. Like even somebody as intellectual and cognitive and without emotion, it's still there because he's a human.
Well, I guess that's one of the things why I hated him so much, was because he took such solace and comfort. Like that was one of, when I first saw it, was one of the powerful moments for me through the first time. The second time I was like, whatever, you hater, you're going to murder these people. But like that first time it was like, yeah, it was like, I think that's what I hated about him so much, is like, yeah, he intellectualized his being a Judas, you know what I mean? But here he was taking comfort in the connection. But like, how superficial was that? Because he was already planning to sacrifice the mom. He's lying to them.
I think it's what we do in relationships, right? Instead of me dealing with my inner fear, I criticize and poke others, right? I go to those secondary emotions because those are easier to deal with. They're less scary. Yeah, rationalize, justify, and I feel like that's what maybe we're seeing there, right?
Well, because it's funny too, because he was also like apologizing while he's doing it, but it was so shallow. I was like, "You freaking liar! You're not sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry, I have to do this to you, but I have to survive. So that's the human way or nature or whatever." I'm like, "You're a jerk." I hated him so much.
You're gonna say something?
Well, I was gonna say, kind of bring it back into a therapeutic place. I've been pursuing being certified in EFT for the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
That has changed the game for me.
Yeah.
Like everything, my personal life, my professional life, marriage, like EFT, emotionally focused therapy, has really, it's been a golden ticket for me.
Yeah.
What about that? Why do you think that is for you in pursuing those that training or that domain of treatment?
Yeah, because I was trained in university and things like that. Everything was very cognitive in approach, and I would get stuck in people's emotions, and I'm like, "What do you do with these things? Let's just outthink our emotions." And it's like, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to fight through survival moves that our body's telling us to go into to protect ourselves and all these things. So to answer your question, Michael, you're talking about, pursuer, withdrawer stuff and some EFT verbiage. I think in sessions like with people that over-intellectualize, sometimes it happens because of trauma or because of extensive pain. Sometimes it happens just because it's linked to part of their temperament or personality. Like you might get an engineer that's just like, oh, like what's emotion? Like, I don't know that. I don't even know how to do anything with that. There's some really cool things you can do to help them find that it's safe, or it can be safe, helping them build some communication where they can be themselves and that they can just sit in emotion and become more aware of, what their protective moves are and then what they do with that. But anyway, I don't even know if that answered any questions, but EFT has been great for me to help people get unstuck from some of those places.
Well, what I heard you say, Brad, that I think is important is that there is a path through the scary part. It's not just I have to figure it out on my own. If I go to someone, and like you're saying, maybe someone that's trained or certified in emotionally focused therapy, they can help me find that path through the pain so I don't end up a Matt Damon. I can end up a Matthew McConaughey, which Matthew McConaughey has an Academy Award. I get Matt Damon does too, for Good Will Hunting. Yeah, that wasn't a good analogy. Also, I like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck a lot, but anyways.
Yeah,
I think it's a powerful point, because I think that's the thing that's so hard, or the things that we have to teach our emotions, or the things that we have to go into a black hole with, is that it won't last forever. And that's the lie, right? That's the lie of the trauma, is that this intense aloneness and rejection, I can't handle. And two, I'll feel this way forever. And it's not true. I mean, that's the lie of trauma. It's not. Like, you can't stay in that intense emotional pain for long, and you're usually in that state because you're emotionally escalated and you're not connected and rooted. in where you are right now, because, you know, you're having this emotional experience of complete and utter isolation. But most of us in this, you know, middle class, you know, cushy America that we live in, we have so much access to love and support in our communities in America, at least anyway. And so it's just not true. You know, it's not true. But that's the emotional place that we go to, and that's the lie. And when we act out of that, you know, that escalated state, we destroy everything around us, like Dr. Mann did, or Matt Damon did, his character did, right? It just destroyed everything. And that's so hard to kind of manage.
And what do you think about the son? So the son is the only one that continues to send these messages to Cooper, right? To his dad. And then towards the end, he's the one that isn't able to really continue to move forward. He gets stuck to the farm. Is that just grief? Is that not, you know, the only thing left of dad to hold on to? Is that him just being really scared and unsure of what to do? What are your thoughts there, Brad, with the son? Because I feel like his change throughout the movie was an interesting one also.
Yeah, that's a good point. So in the beginning, he uses some harsh words towards his sister.
Mm-hmm.
You know, calls her some names or really jumps on top of her when she, I don't know,
he's teasing her about the Murphy thing.
Yeah.
Murphy's Law or whatever.
So, you know, the dad comes in and corrects him. He's like, hey, don't talk to your sister like that. And so, and then, you know, at the baseball field, he asks, like, hey, you know, you tested to become a farmer. What do you think about that? And he was like, I really like it. So I don't know if it's just part of like temperament or personality mixed with like some hopelessness getting in there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the world's coming to an end. Dad's not coming back. Like, yeah, I know the way that this is going, so just sit here.
I wonder if it's the tension between tradition and something new, right? Like he's trying to, you know, save his family, the human race, by working hard, doing what's worked in the past. But I guess what he's unwilling to acknowledge or embrace is that the blight has come and it's not going away. And that's definitely something that can kill a family. Like if you are so wed to tradition, you can't receive a new idea. I mean, going off world, being alien, you know, or pursuing something that's alien, you know, is something that he doesn't understand, right? He wants to stay connected to tradition and home base and the family, and feels like he's built a family. And so I wonder if it's just a narrative about the insecurity of embracing something new when you're wed to tradition, you know?
Oh, John, you bring up a good point. I think we might have stumbled on something that I hadn't thought about before, but routinely throughout the movie, Cooper is always like, we're explorers. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Even as soon as he gets back from outer space, he's like,
true.
I don't care where we've been. I'm just out. Where are we going?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and versus like, and that's how you like get stuff done and progress and save people. Versus there are some people out there that are just like, nope, let's stay where we're at and die and be okay with what we've been handed. But Cooper, even you know, Cooper's father-in-law, he's like, this place never was enough for you, was it? And it's like, no, he's an explorer. Like he goes and he gets stuff and he goes and does stuff. Yeah. And so that's interesting.
And how that's so interesting, even in relationships of the, you know, couples or relationships that we have come into our office. I feel like there's typically one who is just like, this is good, let's keep it right here, and shocked to hear the other say, this is not good, I'm not happy with this. Well, isn't that interesting? And to relate that to the movie, I think is what the two of you are saying is really interesting point to me.
Well, I think it's a part of the whole yin yang principle. I think there's healthy tension. Like, we need tradition, we need things that are safe, we need structure, we need boundaries, right? So you can go too far in that direction and it's a prison and it's oppressive and there's no room for growth, there's no room for innovation. And then you have too far the other direction, you have chaos where there's no structure and no tradition and no rules, no scheme, schema, no what's the word I'm looking for? The developmental word for a developmental structure, which we need. You know what I mean? So it's you can have too much of one and too much of the other, and so I think that's one of the dynamics of family systems that's really complicated, right? Because you need a structure, you need tradition, you need something that's in place. But if a family isn't dynamic enough to allow a kid to grow, right? I mean, how you parent a 5-year-old and how you parent a 15-year-old and how you support a 25-year-old child, like, you've got to be a dynamic person to be able to parent that kid differently at the different stages that they are, instead of like, no, this is just the way it is and this is just the way it needs to be and this is how you need to do it. Like, yeah, there is some of that, but there's not a totality of that. And I think that's one of the things that we're really grappling with as a society right now. I think there's a real, between tradition and this idea of a narrative that people want to completely destroy the structure of the nature of, man. They see that as an oppressive structure where it's like, okay, what's the, I don't want to be political. It's like, what's the alternative? So you need both. There has to be a healthy recognition of structure is good, we need it, but let's be able to look at the structure and see where it's unhealthy, which is, I think, what we try to do, right? We try to help people identify what they need for safety and connection, and then also have enough courage, intelligence, wisdom to allow things to progress, right? It's a really complicated issue of human development, family structures that is at the heart of it, right? Which the movie really gets at in a profound way, for sure.
Awesome.
The last point that I had on it was, it's just kind of a warm kind of take for me that, goodness and love has positive ripple effects and can be quantified, and it actually means something, and it pays off.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like that theme as well. There's lots of things I like besides just the scientific coolness that I want to learn more about.
The whole idea of relativity and the weirdness of it in science. I remember being in a physics class my junior in high school and asking the professor, when he explained that time slows down with speed, I was like, wait, can you please explain to me how? And he took a whole class, and I remember having no improved knowledge or understanding of why it is that time slows down with an increase of speed.
Yeah.
There's something profoundly interesting there that I don't know if I've worked out.
First time I watched this movie, I went on a YouTube binge for a good couple weeks. I probably logged hundreds of hours on scientists trying to explain to me
what relativity is.
But anyway.
And I loved your point too, Brad. This idea that, like, the no-win solution, the no-win scenario, the Kobe Marachi, is that what it is from Star Trek? I can't remember.
Maru?
Yeah, is it Maru something? But the no-win scenario, right, is won not through cheating, but it's won through love. And I think that's such a cool point, cool theme from this movie.
I like what you said to kind of talk about, John's point of, cultural evolution. Yeah, that's what gets us to a higher point.
Yeah.
As people, I mean, if you want to be spiritual, which I am, as children of a God, that's the thing. That's it.
Well, I mean, it's what we've seen, right, through Gandhi or through Martin Luther King, through Savior Jesus Christ, right, through I think a lot of spiritual and even political figures that we view as great people, great leaders. It's through that love, that connection.
I think the appropriate application of love, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The tyrannical mother love is not great.
Thank you, Brad. This was awesome. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing about Dan Reynolds and your experience growing up. And it's been super fun. I've got so many more things I want to chat with you about, Brad. So
You call me anytime. I'm actually hoping that this really takes off for you too, so that you can fly me in.
Yeah.
To Nashville for the next one.
Let's do it, dude. Part 2. You're welcome anytime.
So
that would be awesome.
So you can fly me out there. We'll do it again.
That would be awesome.
You can bring Dan with you. We'll do. That'd be great.
He'd come.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. We appreciate having you on, man.
All right.
Thanks, all.
See you next time.
Yeah. Adios.
All right. Bye.